Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Gardener. So this video is especially for people who are beginners. Now when I say beginners, it's basically that you are buying succulents for the first time and you don't know how to go about. These are certain tips for a lot of beginners. Now the first and the most important thing what I have seen in respect to the pots, a lot of people tend to use really large pots. I would say the ideal pot size for a succulent would be anywhere between 7 centimeter up to 9 centimeter. Try to use a pot with a depth of around 7 centimeter or 9 centimeter. That is going to work out really well. Let's say for some reason you do not find a pot, you always have these food containers which are also quite good enough for growing succulents. You can see I have been growing some succulents in this, and this is a food container. Again, this is not quite deep. Probably this is around I'm not very sure, probably this must be 4 centimeters or 5 centimeters, but you can see these are very small succulents. So again, this all depends upon the size of the succulents. Over here I have, these are very small ones that I had recently got. You can see I have put them in a 7 centimeter pot. But let's say if I had a medium size succulent, then probably a 8 centimeter pot or a 9 centimeter pot will work out really well. But try to keep your pot size between 7 centimeter up to 9 centimeter. But if you have a very large bowl and if you feel that the depth is too much, you can always cut down on the depth. I've already made a couple of videos on that. I'll put the video link in the description below of how to cut down on the depth of a large pot. And then the next thing is the most important thing, that is the soil mix. Everything depends upon your soil mix. This is basically the foundation of your garden, or for that matter, the foundation of your succulents, which is the soil mix. So if you are making a soil mix for the first time, I've already made the test soil method, which I'll put the link in the description below. You can check out before you plant your succulent. Go through that soil test method, which will help you understand how your soil is, because we need to have a very loose, porous, well draining soil mix. Another important thing what I would suggest is, a lot of times people tend to buy succulents and they tend to put all their succulents together in one pot. I will give you another tip over here. Let's say that you have 2 succulents. What I would suggest is, don't put both the succulents in the same pot. Try to keep them in individual pots. Now the main reason behind that is because you're just starting off with succulents. You do not have much idea of how to care for them. You're not very sure about how to water, when to water. Let's say you have got 2 succulents and you have put them, the same variety, and you have put them in 2 separate pots. You can always keep one as a backup. Let's say this pot you might have overwatered and now the succulent is starting to rot. You're trying your best to save it. Probably you might be able to save it, but at the same time you have another backup over here. Let's say this you haven't overwatered. Now you have another backup. Even if this succulent tends to die, I hope that it doesn't, but let's say God forbid the succulent starts to die, you have a backup. But let's say if you have put both the succulents in the same pot, and you might end up killing both the succulents. So to have a backup, always try to keep your succulents in individual pots, especially if you are a beginner. Do not go for a arrangement in first go itself. When you're learning about succulents, try to give them individual pots, so that if something goes wrong with succulent A, you always have succulent B and you do not need to make the same mistake. Of course, that doesn't mean that you're going to overwater the first succulent. This is just an example, because a lot of times we are not able to understand what are the needs of the succulent when we initially start. So rather than putting 2 succulents in one pot, keep them separately, so that at least you have another backup. Even after so many years, I always tend to do this. If I have 2 succulents, let's say if I have 4 succulents, then I might put 2 succulents in one pot. But if I have only 2 of each, then I tend to put them in separate pots. I will show you another example as well. Like over here, as you can see, I have most of my succulents in individual pots. Now these are some pups that I had grown from leaves. So that's why you can see there are 4 marpins and there is 1 dusty rose, because this was a leaf propagation. Now the pups have reached a decent size, but they're still in the same pot. And over here I have an arrangement. I have Lola, there is another Echeveria, we have a Marpin over here, and there is a Sedum again. So over here I have separated it. I have another Lola which is in a single pot, and I have 1 Lola over here. If I wanted, I could put both the Lolas in the same pot, but I prefer to keep them separate just in case if something goes wrong. As a backup, I have another Lola in another pot, and there is 1 Lola in this pot. And majority of my succulents, as you see, I tend to keep them in single pots, even though if I have them as doubles, like these 2 are Marpins, but still they are kept in separate pots. So this is how you can go about. Just to be on the safer side, you can always separate, or you can keep one of the variety in another pot. If something goes wrong, you always have another backup. Watering, as I said, if you are a beginner, the stick method is something that will work out really well. Always poke a stick into the soil to check, because the soil has to be completely bone dry from the upper layer of soil to the bottom layer of soil. So this is something that you have to keep in mind, which you will eventually start to learn as in when you start growing succulents. But this is something that you need to keep in mind when you initially buy your succulents. Do not buy it in a very large number. Start off with a very small number, maybe 2 or 3. Focus on them, and then eventually you can start adding in some more once you get a good amount of experience. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.